Asterisk. What if I told you that the difference between living an ordinary life and building an extraordinary one comes down to habits? Not luck, not talent, not wealth, but the simple, powerful patterns you repeat every single day. Think about that for a moment. Every success story you've ever admired, every leader you've respected, every achiever who turned vision into reality, they were not born with magic. They built their lives on habits. And among all the wisdom ever written on human behavior, one book has stood the test of time, guiding millions to transform their lives. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. Today, you are about to take a journey through those habits, not as theory, but as timeless principles you can live by. Close your eyes for a second and imagine your life 5 years from now. Are you proud of the person you become? Do you feel in control, fulfilled, and effective? Or are you tired of chasing deadlines, stuck in routines, reacting to life instead of leading it? The truth is, we all have the same 24 hours. The difference is how we choose to live them. Covey's 7 habits are not just productivity hacks. They are principles that can completely reshape how you think, how you act, and how you impact the world around you. The first thing you must understand is that effectiveness is not about doing more things. It is about doing the right things. You can run faster and faster on a treadmill, but if you're not moving the right direction, you'll remain stuck. The habits we are about to explore will not just help you move forward. They will make sure you're climbing the right mountain, not wasting your life climbing the wrong one. But before we step into the first habit, let's pause here. Because transformation doesn't start with techniques. It starts with a shift in mindset. Covey said, if you want to make small changes, work on your behavior. But if you want to make big quantum changes, work on your paradigm. Paradigm means how you see the world, the lens through which you interpret everything. Change the lens, and the picture changes forever. So let's begin with habit 1. Imagine waking up in the morning, and before you even touch your phone, before you check the emails, before the noise of the world crashes in, you remind yourself of one truth. You are not a product of your circumstances. You are a product of your choices. This is the essence of habit 1. Be proactive. Most people live in reaction mode. They let their moods, the weather, traffic, or someone else's attitude control their day. But proactive people are different. They pause. They choose. They understand that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies their freedom and their power. Think of Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the horrors of Nazi concentration camps. He lost his family, his freedom, his dignity. Yet he realized one thing could never be taken from him: the freedom to choose his response. Even in the darkest conditions, he chose hope, he chose meaning, he chose life. That is the ultimate example of proactivity. In your own life, being proactive means refusing to be a victim. It means you don't say, I can't, but rather, how can I? You stop blaming your boss, your parents, the economy, and instead take ownership. Imagine this shift. Instead of saying, my boss makes me so angry, you say, I choose to be angry when my boss acts this way. Suddenly, the power is back in your hands. This habit teaches us that our language shapes our reality. Reactive people use words like, I can't, I have to, if only. Proactive people use language like, I choose, I prefer, I will. One keeps you trapped, the other sets you free. Now, why is this so important for effectiveness? Because if you live reactively, you hand over your life to external forces. If someone else's mood determines your mood, you are their puppet. If circumstances control your direction, you are drifting without a compass. But when you are proactive, you are the driver of your life, not the passenger. So here's a challenge. Starting today, focus on what Covey calls your circle of influence, the things you can actually control. Too many people waste energy complaining about politics, weather, or global issues they cannot touch. Highly effective people put their energy where it counts, on their habits, their health, their work, their relationships. And as they do, their circle of influence expands. They gain more control, more impact, more effectiveness. Pause and reflect. In the last week, how much time did you spend complaining about things outside your control? And how much time did you invest in things you could change? If the balance tilts toward complaints, you're living reactively. But if you start shifting even 10% of that energy into proactive choices, your life trajectory changes. Being proactive is not about ignoring reality. It's about choosing your response to reality. It's about saying, yes, the economy is tough, but I will find a way. Yes, I made mistakes, but I will learn and grow. Yes, people let me down, but I will rise above. It's about responsibility, literally, the ability to respond. Let's take a practical step. For the next 7 days, listen carefully to your own words. Notice when you say things like, I can't, or they make me, or if only. Replace them with proactive language. I choose, I decide, I will. This tiny shift, though simple, will begin to rewire your brain toward effectiveness. Remember, habit 1 is a foundation. Without proactivity, the rest of the habits collapse. Because if you don't believe you have the power to choose, you'll never plan, prioritize, or build meaningful relationships. Proactivity is the key that unlocks everything else. And so, as you reflect tonight, ask yourself this question. Am I reacting to life or am I creating it? Because the choice always is yours. Picture yourself at the end of your life. The people you love are gathered around, and someone stands to speak about you. What will they say? Will they describe you as someone who chased success but lost peace? Or as someone who built wealth but neglected family? Or will they remember you as a person of character, vision, and impact? This is not a morbid thought. It's the most important exercise you can ever do. Because if you don't know your destination, how can you possibly choose the right path? This is the power of habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. It means living today with tomorrow clearly imagined. It means every action you take is aligned with the ultimate vision of the life you want to build. Too often, people climb the ladder of success only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. They spent years chasing achievements that never truly mattered to them. But those who begin with the end in mind avoid this trap. They live with purpose, not just productivity. Think of it this way. If you were building a house, would you start hammering nails without a blueprint? Of course not. You would plan the design, visualize the final structure, and then every action, from laying the foundation to painting the walls, would serve that vision. Life is no different. Without a clear blueprint, you risk building a life that doesn't reflect who you really are. Stephen Covey tells us to create a personal mission statement. This is not a list of goals or tasks. It's a declaration of who you want to be, what you value, and what legacy you want to leave. It becomes a compass that guides every decision. When opportunities come, you ask, does this align with my mission? When challenges arise, you ask, how does my vision direct me here? This clarity brings strength, focus, and peace. But let's be honest. Most people never pause long enough to define their mission. They live by default, not design. They follow trends, chase approval, and react to demands until one day they wonder why life feels empty. Beginning with the end in mind requires courage because it forces you to confront what truly matters. Here's a question. What do you want written on your tombstone? It won't be, he answered all his emails on time, or she worked late every night. It will be about your character, your contribution, your relationships. Covey reminds us that there are 2 kinds of success, the outer and the inner. Outer success is money, titles, possessions. Inner success is integrity, purpose, meaning. Outer success fades, but inner success is timeless. So, how do you begin with the end in mind in practical terms? Start by identifying your roles in life. Parent, professional, friend, community member, individual. Then ask, in each of these roles, what kind of person do I want to be? What legacy do I want to leave? Maybe as a parent, you want to raise children who feel loved and confident. As a professional, you want to lead with honesty and excellence. As a friend, you want to be loyal and supportive. Writing these down becomes a compass for your daily actions. Imagine you're offered promotion that pays more, but demands 80 hours a week, leaving no time for family. If your mission is clear, you don't hesitate. You know success without balance is failure in disguise. Or imagine you face temptation to cut corners for quick profit. If your mission is integrity, the answer is obvious. Your end vision filters your choices, so you live by principle, not pressure. Let me give you a powerful story. Years ago, a businessman worked endlessly to expand his empire. He sacrificed time with his children, believing he was securing their future. When he finally retired, wealthy but exhausted, he tried to reconnect. But the years were gone, the bonds weakened. His children loved him, but they barely knew him. He had won the world, but lost what mattered most. That is a tragedy of living without the end in mind. Now imagine another man. He, too, built a career, but he defined his mission early. To serve others, to lead with kindness, to prioritize family. Every choice flowed from that vision. At his funeral, his children spoke of love, his colleagues spoke of integrity, his community spoke of his generosity. That man lived not just a long life, but a meaningful one. Beginning with the end in mind also means visualizing success before it happens. Great athletes do this all the time. They don't just train their bodies, they train their minds to see the victory before they step onto the field. The same applies to your life. When you visualize the future you want, you align your actions to make it real. Here's an exercise you can start today. Sit down in silence. Write your own eulogy. Imagine your best friend, your partner, your colleague standing at your funeral. What do you want them to say? Do you want them to describe you as someone who inspired, someone who loved deeply, someone who lived with courage? Write it all down. That becomes your mission. That becomes your blueprint. But a vision is useless unless it becomes action. Every morning, revisit your mission. Ask yourself, what can I do today in each role I play that reflects the end I want? If your mission is to be a loving parent, maybe it's spending 15 undistracted minutes with your child. If your mission is to lead with integrity, maybe it's telling the truth even when it costs you. These small daily choices create the big picture of your life. Covey said, management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. Beginning with the end in mind is leadership. It means you stop living by default and start living by design. It means your calendar reflects your values, not just other people's demands. It means your time, energy, and heart are invested in what truly matters. So tonight, when you close your eyes, don't just replay the busyness of the day. Ask yourself, did I live today in alignment with the person I want to become? If the answer is no, don't be discouraged. Every day is a chance to realign, to refocus, to begin again with the end in mind. Because here's the ultimate truth. One day, your life will end. But the story you write with your days will echo long after you're gone. The question is, what story will it tell? Asterisk. Every morning when you wake up, you are faced with a silent question. What will you do with this day? You have 24 hours, the same as the most successful leaders, thinkers, and creators in history. Yet why do some people achieve greatness, while others remain stuck in chaos? The answer lies in what they choose to prioritize. Because life is not about how much you do. It's about what you do first. Habit 3 is put first things first. It's about discipline, about aligning your daily actions with the vision you defined in habit 2. It is not enough to know your mission. You must live it every day by making deliberate choices. Most people live by urgency. They react to what screams the loudest. Emails, phone calls, deadline, distractions. But highly effective people live by importance. They focus on what truly matters, even if it doesn't shout for attention. Think of a jar. If you fill it first with sand and pebbles, meaning all the small, urgent, meaningless tasks, there will be no room left for the big rocks, which are your priorities: family, health, purpose, personal growth. But if you place the big rocks in first, then add pebbles and sand, everything fits. This is a principle of prioritization. Put the big rocks in first. Ask yourself, what are your big rocks? What matters most to you? Too many people spend years climbing the ladder of success only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. They sacrifice family for career, health for money, peace for productivity. Habit 3 demands you live consciously, making time for what truly builds the life you want. Let's be clear. Putting first things first is not about managing time. It's about managing yourself. Because no one can control time, but you can control your choices. You can control whether you say yes or no, whether you drift with distractions or stay anchored to your priorities. This is why discipline is freedom. Without discipline, life controls you. With discipline, you control life. Think about this scenario. You're at work, and an endless stream of emails keeps you busy all day. At the end, you feel drained. But did you move closer to your real goals? Probably not. Compare that to spending even one focused hour working on a meaningful project, one that aligns with your vision. That single hour outweighs the 10 hours lost in busyness. Stephen Covey explains this principle with his time management matrix. There are 4 quadrants: urgent and important, not urgent but important, urgent but not important, and neither urgent nor important. Most people live in the urgent, always firefighting, reacting, rushing. But highly effective people live in the second quadrant, not urgent but important. That means exercise, planning, relationships, learning. These things don't demand your attention, but they build your future. Imagine if you never exercise. You won't notice for weeks, maybe months. But years later, your health collapses. Imagine if you neglect your spouse or children. They won't leave immediately, but over time, the distance grows. These are important but not urgent. If you don't put them first, one day it will be too late. Putting first things first requires courage. It means saying no when others expect you to say yes. It means disappointing some people in order to stay true to your priorities. It means choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term pleasure. For example, you may have a chance to watch television for hours, but your big rock is writing a book, starting a business, or deepening your skills. The choice is yours, comfort now or greatness later. Let's bring this to life with a story. Imagine a man who worked tirelessly to provide for his family. He believed money was love, but he never put family time as a big rock. His children grew up with everything they needed, except him. When he finally slowed down, he discovered that what they longed for was not his money, but his presence. He had filled his jar with sand and pebbles, and the big rocks had no space left. This is the regret habit 3. Helps you avoid. Now think about another person. She knew her mission was to serve and inspire. She worked hard, yes, but she also guarded time for her family, her health, her learning. She said no to endless distractions, no to empty busyness, yes to what mattered. At the end of her life, her legacy was not exhaustion but balance, not regret but fulfillment. That is a reward of putting first things first. Here's a practical step. Write down your top 3 priorities in life. Just 3. Then open your calendar and ask, does my schedule reflect these priorities? If your family is number 1, but they don't appear in your schedule, something is wrong. If health is important, but exercise has no place, something must change. If growth matters, but learning is on the calendar, your actions are out of sync. Real effectiveness is not about what you say your priorities are. It's about what your life shows they are. This habit also requires weekly planning. Take 1 hour each week to review your mission, your roles, your priorities. Then schedule the big rocks first. Literally block out time for them before anything else. Because if you don't plan your week, someone else will plan it for you. And remember, urgency is seductive. It makes you feel productive, even when you're not. A ringing phone, a notification, a request, they feel important, but often they are not. The question to ask is, will this matter a year from now? 5 years from now? If not, maybe it's just sand. Putting first things first also means balancing the physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional dimensions of life. If you neglect one, the others suffer. Success is not one-dimensional. What use is wealth without health? What use is fame without peace? What use is achievement without love? Balance is not optional. It is essential. So, what choice will you make tomorrow morning? Will you let the day run you, or will you run the day? Will you fill your jar with sand and pebbles, or will you start with the big rocks? Every decision you make, every yes or no, is shaping your destiny. Covey said, the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. This is the essence of habit 3. Don't just talk about what matters. Live it. Guard it. Put it first. So tonight, ask yourself, what are the big rocks in my life? And tomorrow, when the noise of the world begins, will I have the courage to place them in first? Because in the end, effectiveness is not about how much you do. It's about doing what matters most. In every corner of life, From business meetings to family dinners, we are constantly making choices in how we relate to others. Some people think only in terms of winning and losing. If I win, you must lose. If you win, I must lose. But this mindset creates competition, jealousy, and broken trust. True effectiveness, true greatness, comes from a different way of thinking. The belief that there's enough for both of us, that my success does not require your failure. This is habit 4. Think win-win. Think about it. How many times have we been taught that life is a race, that there are limited seats, that only the strongest survive? This scarcity mindset creates fear. It makes us protective, selfish, defensive. But the truth is, life is not a zero-sum game. Relationships are not competitions. In fact, the greatest leaders, partners, and creators know that lasting success comes not by crushing others, but by lifting them. Imagine two business partners negotiating a deal. One focuses only on profit, squeezing every drop from the other. At first, he might win, but over time, the relationship breaks. Distrust grows. No one wants to work with him again. That is short-term victory, but long-term loss. Now imagine another leader who looks for solutions where both sides gain. He listens, he understands, he seeks fairness. That relationship strengthens, grows, multiplies. That is the power of win-win. Covey describes 6 paradigms of human interaction. Win-lose, lose-win, lose-lose, win-win-win, and win-win or no deal. Win-lose is the dictator's mindset. I must come out on top, even if you suffer. Lose-win is the doormat's mindset. I give up my needs to keep peace. Lose-lose is pure revenge. If I can't win, neither can you. Win is selfish. I don't care what happens to you, as long as I succeed. But win-win is different. It's built on mutual respect, mutual benefit, and mutual growth. Win-win thinking is not about being nice. It's about being courageous and considerate at the same time. Courage to stand for what you need. Consideration to respect what others need. Weak people cannot truly think win-win because they either dominate or surrender. Only strong people, secure in themselves, can seek solutions where everyone prospers. Here's an everyday example. A parent and child argue about bedtime. The parent wants rest. The child wants freedom. A win-lose approach forces a child into resentment. A lose-win approach spoils discipline. But a win-win approach finds creative alternatives. Maybe extra playtime tomorrow or a bedtime story that makes both happy. The goal is not compromise. It's synergy, a solution where both feel valued. Think about your own life. Do you approach relationships as battles to win? Or do you approach them as opportunities to grow together? A marriage where one partner always dominates will collapse. A friendship where one always sacrifices will turn bitter. A workplace where only one person shines will breed politics. Win-win transforms these dynamics into partnerships of trust. Win-win also requires abundance thinking. Scarcity says there's only one slice of the pie. Abundance says we can bake a bigger pie. Scarcity breeds envy. Abundance celebrates other success. Scarcity fears sharing. Abundance believes in multiplying. If you want to adopt habit 4, you must let go of fear and embrace abundance. Let's go deeper. To think win-win, you must build 3 key character traits: integrity, maturity, and abundance mentality. Integrity means staying true to your values. Maturity means balancing courage with consideration, speaking your truth but also respecting others. And abundance mentality means believing there is more than enough for everyone. Without integrity, win-win is manipulation. Without maturity, it becomes weakness. Without abundance, it becomes impossible. But when all 3 come together, relationships thrive. Consider the story of a teacher with 2 students competing for the same prize. One student prayed secretly that the other would fail. The other prayed both would succeed, even if he didn't win. In the end, the second student, with his abundant mindset, found joy regardless of the outcome. That is win-win in action, not just in results, but in spirit. Now, let's apply this to business. Imagine 2 companies negotiating a partnership. One wants maximum control. The other resists. Tension grows. But then, they shift to win-win thinking. They ask, how can we both benefit? How can we both win more together than alone? The result is a creative contract that expands markets, increases profits, and builds trust. Win-win thinking unlocks possibilities that competition never can. But there's also a safeguard, win-win or no deal. This means if both parties cannot truly win, it's better to walk away, because forced agreements without fairness breed resentment. Sometimes, the most powerful choice is to say no deal and wait for a better opportunity where mutual benefit is possible. Think about how liberating this is. You no longer have to manipulate, beg, or fight for every situation. You can enter relationships with confidence, knowing either we both win or we don't do it. This builds trust and authenticity because people know you won't exploit them. Now, let's bring this to the personal level. Think of your closest relationships. What would change if you shifted from winning arguments to winning together? What if instead of trying to prove you're right, you try to build understanding? What if instead of demanding love, you gave it freely, trusting it would return? Win-win is not about balance sheets. It's about the human heart. Here's a small but powerful exercise. Next time you face a conflict, stop and ask yourself, how can we both win here? Don't rush to defend your position. Don't rush to surrender. Listen, explore, create. You'll be amazed at the solutions that appear when both sides feel safe and respected. Habit 4 changes not just outcomes, but atmospheres. It transforms workplaces into teams, families into support systems, communities into networks of trust. Because when one person wins, it's good. But when everyone wins, the whole world rises. So, tomorrow, when you face your next negotiation, your next argument, your next choice, pause and remember habit 4. Ask yourself, will I compete or will I cooperate? Will I grab or will I share? Will I live in scarcity or in abundance? The world has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed. The choice is yours. Think win-win, not just because it feels good, but because it works. Because it builds trust, multiplies results, and creates legacies. Because in the end, true success is not when you win alone, but when you win together. Asterisk. Think for a moment about the last time you felt truly heard. Not when someone nodded while waiting to respond. Not when someone gave advice before you finished. But when another person actually entered your world, listened without judgment, and understood what you were trying to say. That feeling is rare, almost sacred. It makes you feel seen, valued, alive. This is the power of habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Most people listen with the intent to reply, not to understand. They're not really present. Their minds are racing, preparing arguments, waiting for a gap to insert their point. This kind of listening is shallow, mechanical, and it creates distance. True listening, the kind Covey describes, is empathetic listening. It means listening not just with your ears, but with your eyes and your heart. It means stepping into the other person's shoes, seeing the world as they see it. Why is this so powerful? Because when people feel understood, their defenses lower. Barriers of pride, fear, and anger begin to fall. Trust grows. And only then, only after you've given the gift of understanding, can you hope to influence, guide, or inspire others. Imagine a doctor who prescribes medicine without diagnosis. Ridiculous, right? Yet, in conversations, we do this all the time. We rush to give advice without fully understanding the problem. We offer solutions that don't fit, opinions that don't heal. Seeking first to understand is like diagnosing before prescribing. It's wisdom in action. Think about a parent and a teenager. The teenager feels misunderstood, angry, rebellious. The parent lectures, criticizes, demands. But the more the parent pushes, the more the teenager resists. Now imagine if the parent paused, listened, asked questions, and tried to truly understand the feelings beneath the anger. Suddenly, the teenager feels safe. The walls drop. A real connection begins. This is not weakness. This is strength. Because understanding creates influence. In business, leaders who practice this habit transform organizations. Picture a manager who listens to her team before making decisions. She asks for input. She hears concerns. She acknowledges feelings. Employees feel valued, respected, motivated. Contrast that with a boss who ignores voices and pushes orders. Which team performs better? Which culture thrives? The answer is obvious. Empathetic listening does not mean agreeing with everything. It means respecting the other's perspective as real to them. It's not about fixing immediately. It's about understanding first. And once you've understood, you earn the right to be understood yourself. This is a sequence Covey teaches. First, give the gift of deep listening. Then share your truth. Let's explore what empathetic listening looks like. Most people practice one of four poor listening habits. They judge, they probe, they advise, or they interpret. Judging shuts people down. Probing makes them defensive. Advising too soon makes them feel dismissed. Interpreting turns the focus back on you. Empathetic listening avoids all of these. It focuses fully on them, their words, their tone, their body language, their emotions. Here's a practical exercise. Next time someone speaks, pause your inner dialogue. Don't plan your reply. Don't filter through your experiences. Just listen, reflect, and try to capture what they mean, not just what they say. Say things like, "It sounds like you feel," or "If I understand correctly," you're saying, this reflection shows you care, and it often helps the speaker discover clarity in their own thoughts. Now, after you've given true understanding, something remarkable happens. The other person becomes open to hearing you. Influence flows naturally. Why? Because you've built trust. You've shown respect. You've earned the right to speak. Then, when you share your perspective, it lands with power. People listen because they feel listened to. Covey tells us that communication is the most important skill in life. We spend years learning to read, write, and speak, but almost no time learning to listen. And yet, listening is the gateway to influence. Listening is leadership. Listening is love. Consider the story of Abraham Lincoln. During times of crisis, he would spend hours listening to citizens, soldiers, and colleagues. Even when exhausted, he gave his full attention. People left those meetings saying, "The president understands me." That connection gave him moral authority. It wasn't speeches alone that moved a nation. It was his ability to understand people first. Think about how this applies to your life. In your relationships, are you quick to talk or quick to listen? Do your loved ones feel truly heard or just managed? Do your colleagues feel respected or just tolerated? Change begins with awareness. The next conversation you have, make it your mission to understand first. Resist the urge to fix, argue, or explain. Just listen. There's a saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Empathetic listening proves you care. And once they feel that, your knowledge, your perspective, your influence gains weight. But habit 5 is not just about others. It also changes you. By listening deeply, you grow in patience, humility, and wisdom. You discover new angles, new truths, new depths of humanity. You realize the world is bigger than your story, and that every person carries a universe of meaning inside them. So what does it look like in action? Picture a heated argument between two friends. One wants to win, the other wants to win. The argument escalates. But then, one decides to practice habit 5. He says, "Hold on. Before I respond, let me understand you fully. Tell me what you feel and I'll just listen." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. Emotions soften. Understanding flows. And when it's his turn to speak, his words carry healing, not more fire. Habit 5 is a habit of greatness because it builds bridges where walls once stood. It turns conflict into cooperation, resistance into openness, strangers into allies. It's not magic, it's simple but rare. That's why it's powerful. So, the next time you're in a conversation, whether with a partner, a child, a friend, a boss, ask yourself, am I listening to reply or listening to understand? Am I focused on being heard or on hearing first? The choice will define the outcome. Remember this. When you listen deeply, you give one of the greatest gifts a human can give. You give presence. You give respect. You give connection. And in return, you gain influence, trust, and love. Seek first understand. Then, and only then, seek to be understood. That is habit 5. And if you practice it daily, your relationships, your leadership, your life will never be the same. Asterisk. Close your eyes and imagine this. One violin playing alone in a room. It's beautiful, soft, delicate. Now imagine an entire orchestra, violins, cellos, drums, horns, coming together in harmony. The sound explodes with power, richness, and depth. That is the difference between working alone and creating synergy. And this is habit 6. Synergize. Synergy is not just teamwork. It is the magic that happens when differences come together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. It is when 1 + 1 = 3 or 10 or even 100. It's when ideas collide and spark innovation. When people with unique strengths combine to solve problems that no one person could solve alone. But here's the truth. Most people fear differences. They see them as threats. They avoid conflict. They hide from disagreement. They stick to what's familiar. That kills synergy. Because synergy is born not from sameness, but from diversity. It thrives when we learn to value differences, to respect them, and to blend them into something extraordinary. Think about nature. A single tree produces oxygen. A single bee carries pollen. But when trees, bees, flowers, water, and sunlight work together, we get an ecosystem that sustains life on Earth. That is synergy in action. Different parts working together to create a miracle. In human terms, synergy happens in families, teams, communities, and nations when people stop trying to control each other and start trying to connect with each other. It's when they stop fighting to be right and start searching for what's best. It's when they stop competing and start completing each other. Covey says synergy is the essence of principle-centered leadership. It's the ability to value differences, to build on strengths, to compensate for weaknesses. And it begins with one key mindset. The belief that together we can find a better way. Let's picture a workplace. A team faces a huge challenge, designing a product under tight deadlines. Each member has a different skill. One is creative, one is analytical, one is practical, one is visionary. If they work in silos, the product suffers. But if they synergize, if they combine creativity with analysis, vision with practicality, they produce brilliance. Not compromise, but breakthrough. Now imagine a marriage. Two people with different personalities often clash. One is organized, the other spontaneous. One is logical, the other emotional. At first, these differences irritate, but if they learn to appreciate each other, something magical happens. The organized partner brings stability. The spontaneous one brings excitement. The logical partner brings clarity. The emotional one brings warmth. Together, they create balance and beauty that neither could create alone. That is synergy at its most intimate level. But synergy doesn't mean avoiding conflict. In fact, healthy conflict is often the doorway to synergy. When people express different views openly and respectfully, they discover new insights. The friction of ideas can spark creativity, like fire born from striking stones. The key is to approach differences with curiosity, not fear, with respect, not judgment, with the question, what can we learn here? What can we build together? Most people settle for compromise. Compromise says, you give a little, I give a little, and we both lose something. Synergy says, let's create something better than either of us imagined. Compromise is a truce. Synergy is transformation. Think about Thomas Edison. He didn't invent the light bulb alone. He synergized with a team of researchers, builders, and dreamers. The Wright brothers synergized to invent flight. Steve Jobs synergized design and technology to revolutionize the world. Every great leap in history has been born from synergy. But synergy requires humility. You must admit you don't have all the answers. You must open yourself to new perspectives. You must celebrate diversity, not fear it. That is hard in a world where ego dominates, where being right feels more important than being wise. But if you want extraordinary results, you must put ego aside and embrace collaboration. Here's an exercise. Next time you're in a disagreement, instead of defending your position, say, let's find a third alternative. Not your way, not my way, but a better way. Watch how this changes the energy. Suddenly, it's not a battle. It's a discovery. It's no longer about winning. It's about creating. Covey calls synergy the highest level of communication. It is a reward of habits 4 and 5. When you think win-win and seek first understand, then real synergy becomes possible. Without those foundations, synergy is impossible. With them, synergy becomes inevitable. Think about sports. A great basketball team doesn't win because of one star player. It wins because every player contributes. Every strength is valued. Every weakness is covered. Michael Jordan himself once said, "Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence win championships." That's synergy. Synergy is also crucial for nations. When cultures clash, wars erupt. But when cultures synergize, civilizations advance. Music, art, science, all flourish when ideas mix. The Renaissance happened because cultures blended knowledge. America grew strong because of diverse contributions. Synergy is the lifeblood of progress. In your personal life, synergy might mean listening to your child's unique perspective, even if it surprises you. It might mean working with colleagues you don't naturally agree with, but finding common ground. It might mean seeking advice from someone older, wiser, or different, and discovering truths you never saw before. So ask yourself, do you resist differences or do you embrace them? Do you settle for compromise or do you seek synergy? Do you shut down when others disagree or do you lean in with curiosity? Your answers will define whether your relationships remain ordinary or become extraordinary. The truth is, synergy is not just a habit. It's a way of living. It's a commitment to collaboration, creativity, and connection. It's about saying, together we can do more, be more, achieve more. Alone, I can play a melody. Together, we can create a symphony. Tomorrow, when you step into a meeting, a classroom, a conversation, remember habit 6. Remember the orchestra. Don't just listen for your own instrument. Listen for harmony. Don't just protect your note. Contribute to the song. Because the world doesn't need more soloists shouting for attention. The world needs symphonies of cooperation. And the music of synergy, once played, can change everything. That is the power of habit 6. That is the power of synergy. Asterisk. Imagine a man in the forest, sweating, exhausted, furiously sawing at a giant tree. Hours pass, yet the tree barely moves. Another traveler stops and says, "Why don't you sharpen your saw?" The man replies, "I don't have time to sharpen the saw. I'm too busy sawing." This is a tragedy of modern life. We keep working harder, but without renewal, without balance, without recharging, our blade becomes dull. That is why habit 7, sharpen the saw, is essential. Sharpening the saw means preserving and renewing the greatest asset you have, yourself. It's about balancing and refreshing 4 key dimensions of your life. Your body, your mind, your heart, and your spirit. If you neglect these, your effectiveness fades. If you nurture them, your effectiveness multiplies. Let's start with the body. Without health, energy, and strength, everything else suffers. Exercise, nutrition, rest, these are not luxuries, they're essentials. In a world of fast food and endless screens, people forget that their body is the vehicle of their dreams. You cannot run a marathon on a broken engine. You cannot lead a movement from a sickbed. Sharpening the saw means taking care of your physical well-being, not someday, but every day. Then comes the mind. Learning, reading, exploring, thinking. Too many people stop learning once school ends. They let their minds rust. But those who keep reading, listening, asking questions, they stay sharp. They adapt. They innovate. The most successful people are lifelong learners. They don't just consume information. They challenge themselves to grow, to stretch, to expand their minds. Sharpening the mind means feeding it with wisdom, with books, with ideas, with reflection. Now, the heart, your emotional and social life. Relationships, trust, empathy, love. These are the connections that give meaning to success. Too many chase wealth and forget to nurture relationships. They win in business but lose in family. They build careers but destroy marriages. Sharpening the saw means taking time for the people who matter, listening to loved ones, building trust, resolving conflicts, forgiving, caring. Because in the end, what will matter most is not what you achieved, but who you love and who love you back. And then the spirit, the dimension of purpose, values, faith, and meaning. This is the deepest renewal of all. Without a clear sense of purpose, life feels empty. Without values, success feels hollow. Sharpening the spirit means connecting with what's eternal, what's higher, what gives life true direction. For some, it's prayer. For others, meditation. For some, time in nature. For others, service to humanity. Whatever your path, the spirit must be fed or the soul withers. Covey reminds us that these four dimensions are interconnected. Neglect one and the others weaken. Care for all and they strengthen each other. Exercise energizes the body, which sharpens the mind. Learning expands the mind, which deepens the spirit. Loving relationships warm the heart, which gives energy to the body. It is all connected. Renewal is a cycle of growth. But here's the danger. Most people live in urgency, not importance. They rush to meet deadlines, chase tasks, check boxes. They think sharpening the saw is a waste of time. But in reality, it is the greatest investment. It's like a farmer too busy harvesting to sharpen his tools. Eventually, the tools break and the harvest ends. Successful people don't just work in their lives. They work on their lives. They step back, reflect, renew. Think about history's greatest leaders. They all had renewal practices. Lincoln read the Bible daily. Gandhi fasted and meditated. Einstein played the violin. These were not distractions. They were sharpening. They kept their minds fresh, their spirits alive, their hearts centered. Renewal gave them the strength to carry heavy burdens. And think about your own life. When was the last time you truly sharpened your saw? Not just entertained yourself with distractions, but deeply renewed yourself? Do you move your body daily? Feed it well, let it rest? Do you read, study, learn, or have you allowed your mind to coast? Do you nurture relationships, or have you neglected them for busyness? Do you connect with your inner purpose, or are you lost in noise? Sharpening the saw is not about perfection. It's about daily habits. Small actions that compound. A morning walk. 10 minutes of journaling. A weekly dinner with family. A few moments of silence before sleep. These are the rituals that keep the saw sharp. But sharpening also means balance. You can't just sharpen one dimension and ignore the rest. A brilliant mind in a broken body cannot sustain. A wealthy heart with an empty spirit feels lost. A strong body with neglected relationships feels lonely. True renewal comes when all four dimensions grow together. There's a story of a lumberjack competition. Two men competed to see who could cut more trees in a day. One chopped nonstop. The other stopped every hour to sharpen his saw. At the end, the second man had cut far more. Why? Because sharpness beats effort. Effectiveness beats busyness. Renewal beats exhaustion. This habit is also about resilience. Life will test you. Challenges will drain you. Stress will wear you down. Without renewal, you will burn out. With renewal, you will bounce back stronger. Sharpening the saw is a habit of long-term greatness because it sustains energy, clarity, connection, and purpose through all seasons of life. So ask yourself, what can you do today to sharpen your saw? Can you move your body, feed it well, and rest? Can you read, write, or learn something new? Can you connect deeply with someone you love? Can you spend time in silence, reflection, or prayer? Each small act is a stroke that sharpens a blade. Covey said, "We must never become too busy sawing to take time to sharpen the saw." Remember this the next time you feel overwhelmed, exhausted, burned out. The solution is not always to push harder. Sometimes the solution is to step back, to renew, to sharpen. Because life is not just about cutting down trees. It is about growing forests. It is about lasting impact. And to create that, you must keep your greatest tool sharp, yourself. So today, pause, breathe, reflect, move, learn, love, pray, sharpen the saw. And when you return to the work, you will not only be stronger, you will be unstoppable. Asterisk. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. Years from now, you're looking back on your life. What will you see? Will it be a blur of unfinished dreams, broken promises, and wasted potential? Or will it be a story of growth, impact, and purpose? The answer depends on the choices you make today. And that is the essence of the 7 habits of highly effective people. This journey has not been about tricks or quick hacks. It has been about timeless principles. Principles that shape not just success, but character. Principles that don't fade with time because they are rooted in truth. And when you live them, they don't just change what you do. They change who you are. Habit 1 taught us to be proactive, to take responsibility, to stop waiting for life to happen and start creating it. That single shift from victim to creator changes everything. Because until you own your choices, you cannot own your destiny. Habit 2 reminded us to begin with the end in mind, to define what truly matters before the noise of the world drowns us. Without vision, life is scattered. With vision, life becomes a masterpiece. And the most successful people are not those who climb the highest ladder, but those who make sure their ladder is leaning against the right wall. Habit 3 showed us the courage of putting first things first, the discipline of choosing what is important over what is urgent. It is here where dreams are protected, where values are lived, where priorities become action. The difference between a busy life and a meaningful life is this habit. Habit 4 shifted us to think win-win, to reject the scarcity mindset that says, for me to win, you must lose. True success is not competition, it's collaboration. It's finding ways for everyone to rise together. Because no empire's selfishness ever lasted. But when you lift others, you create impact that echoes for generations. Habit 5 gave us the gift of empathy. Seek first understand, then to be understood. It is a habit that transforms communication into connection. In a world full of noise, to truly listen is a superpower. To be understood is human, but to understand that is divine. Habit 6 took us to synergy, the magic of teamwork, of unity, of differences not dividing us but strengthening us. It's a habit that creates music instead of noise, harmony instead of conflict, innovation instead of repetition. Alone we can do much. Together we can change the world. And finally, habit 7, sharpen the saw, taught us that greatness is not about a single sprint, but a lifelong marathon. Renewal, balance, energy, growth. If you fail to care for yourself, your blade dulls, your light dims, your strength fades. But if you renew yourself daily, in body, mind, heart, and spirit, you become unstoppable. These 7 habits are not steps you check off. They are a way of life. They build upon each other, layer by layer, until they form a foundation that cannot be shaken. Together, they create effectiveness. Not the shallow kind of success, but the deep kind, the kind that lasts, the kind that inspires. Think about the lives you admire most. Leaders, teachers, parents, creators. What makes them extraordinary? It's not luck. It's not shortcuts. It's principles. They live with responsibility. They live with vision. They live with discipline, fairness, empathy, synergy, and renewal. And when their time on earth ends, they leave behind more than achievements. They leave a legacy. And so the question comes back to you. How will you live? Will you drift with the current, or will you choose your direction? Will you be reactive or proactive? Will you chase distractions or build a vision? Will you waste time on the urgent or invest in the important? Will you compete with others or lift them? Will you speak to be heard or listen to understand? Will you stand alone or create synergy? Will you burn out or sharpen your saw? Every habit is a choice, and every choice is a step toward your future. But here's the truth. These habits only matter if you live them. Listening to them is not enough. Reading them is not enough. Agreeing with them is not enough. You must practice them. You must embody them. You must live them until they become your character. And it will not happen overnight. Change is not instant. But day by day, habit by habit, choice by choice, you will grow. And one day, without even realizing it, you will look back and see that you are not the same person you once were. You will see that you became more, stronger, wiser, kinder, more effective, more human. This is the legacy of the 7 habits. Not just personal success, but transformation. Not just achievement, but significance. Not just surviving, but leading, loving, and leaving the world better than you found it. So as we close this journey, I leave you with a challenge. Don't let this be just another audiobook you listen to. Let it be a spark, a call to action, a moment that shifts the direction of your life. Because you have greatness within you. You have the power to choose. You have the power to change. You have the power to live by principles that make life not just successful, but extraordinary. So go ahead, be proactive. Begin with the end in mind. Put first things first. Think win-win. Seek first understand, then to be understood. Create synergy. Sharpen the saw. Live these habits. Teach them. Share them. Pass them on. And when your story is told, it will not be said that you lived an ordinary life. It will be said that you lived effectively, purposefully, meaningfully. And that is the greatest victory of all. Asterisk.